Welcome back to another video, guys. Today I have an alternate build guide for you on Krieg the Psycho. So if you've seen my full build breakdown of Krieg, then you know that we pretty much always go down Mania and then straight over to the left to get Blood Explosion, which it's probably the best build, and I'm not claiming that this build is better than that, but this is a very fun build. And what we're going to do is a strong mix of the Mania and the Hellborn trait to make what I call the Hellborn Maniac build. Now this build is primarily good against flesh targets, as you might be able to assume, and against them it is super good, but against other enemies it's kinda lackluster. What's great about this build though is it requires pretty much no gear, just like a normal Krieg build would. So for gear, literally I have an infection for setting myself on fire and getting elemental elation stacks, a Slaga for slagging, the Ravagers just to get myself back up, I just have a dog on, Rough Rider, pretty much the only shield you can use in the OP levels as melee Krieg, unfortunately. And then either a Pandemic, a Slag Crossfire, a Fire Bee, anything that does element, just so you can stack elemental elation. For class mods, the Legendary Sickle is the best possible option here, but I actually really like using the Legendary Torch. It is not better, but it is very fun because with elemental elation, it can make your buzz axes go crazy, okay? And then for relics, you have either the Sheriff's Badge, which I would recommend, or a max health relic of whatever sort, or if you really want to be cool, use a Bone of the Ancients. So for the actual build itself, I recommend going 5 out of 5 Empty the Rage for max melee damage, 5 out of 5 Empty the Meat for the health, and you don't really need the delay. Then here it's kind of up to you. Either Embrace the Pain if you want to have faster fire rate when you're not in Buzzax Rampage, or Strip the Flesh for Buzzax Bombardier, which we're going to do. Then take 5 out of 5 and Assault the Wound. It's just going to give you big melee bonuses every time you take damage to your health. I should mention Strip the Flesh just increases explosive damage. I always put a point in to Redeem the Soul just for more fight for your lifetime, especially playing as a melee Krieg. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to get yourself back up. Then 5 out of 5 Silence the Voices, 500% melee damage. You cannot argue with that. Then put a point in to Release the Beast. Pretty much once you're down below 33% of your HP, you can press the action skill button, instantly heal back to full, you'll become invincible, and then you'll have 50% damage reduction and double melee damage for the duration of your Buzzax Rampage. Then move into the other tree, and here you actually do have a few choices. If you want to really double down on the fire, max out Burn Baby Burn 5 out of 5. Otherwise, just go for Fuel the Fire. This will make it so after you get a kill, you have a higher chance of causing elemental effects, which you really want with this build. Then get 5 out of 5 Numb Nerves, which whenever you're on fire, which you will be most of the time, you'll be under 50% damage reduction, which isn't actually accurate, but it is a lot of damage reduction still. And then we get to Pain is Power, which I was kind of wrong on my build guide about. It was one of the things that if I went back, I would change it. So it does increase your melee damage, but it's actually a lot less of an increase than you would think. I'm not sure why, I'm not sure how the calculations work, but it increases it, but it's not worth it. It's not worth the points invested, and it makes your criticals do significantly less damage than if you just weren't spec'd into it. If I were to go test on the dummy real quick, actually, I'll go show you on the dummy real quick. All right, so you can see, as is currently, if I melee him in the head, it does 13,803, okay? Now, if I spec points into this, and it's being maxed out too for my class mod, it goes from 13,803 to 9,000k. So it's actually reducing the damage, even though I'm fully spec'd into it, it's reducing the damage by whatever that is, like. And even when you're on fire and get the on fire bonus. So as you can see, by speccing into Pain is Power, it actually halved my critical hit damage versus just not speccing into it at all. And the actual damage in a body shot goes from 7,000k, and then let me respec real quick. All right, so it actually goes from 7,000k to 609 or 6.9 thousand. Okay. So not a huge increase for the fact that you literally lose half of your critical hit damage. So moving on, don't spec into Pain its power. Um, Elemental Elation, you 100% want. It pretty much makes this build what it is. It's a big part of it at least. So essentially, when you do elemental status effect damage, you'll gain stacks, which will increase your fire rate and mag size, which for melee Krieg doesn't sound like much, but the fire rate applies to your buzz axes. And this is also why I love the Legendary Torch class mod, because when you have this, it gives you 3% fire rate per stack, max of 20 stacks, so you can get 60% faster buzz axe throwing speed. But a Legendary Torch class mod takes that up to 10 out of 5, which makes it 5.5% per stack. So that's whatever that is, 110% bonus fire rate to your buzz axes. It's gonna get ridiculous, and I will show you that later, but 100% spec into this, especially on this build. Delusional damage, I always get this because this will make it so if you corrode an enemy, it can set you on fire. If you slag an enemy, if you do whatever. And then I actually max out Fire Fiend, which I know sounds weird, but I max it out because it makes it so between Fuel the Fire and just the 50% on Fire Fiend, you pretty much will always end up setting yourself on fire when meleeing an enemy. You'll pretty much always set them on fire too. And that was one thing that I noticed about my last build, is that while I always had numb nerves, it was actually really rare that I ever got set on fire, so I didn't actually get the damage reduction often. With this build, you'll pretty much permanently have it on, and a lot of that is thanks to Fire Fiend. Moving on to Flame Flare, max this out. This will just make it so burn duration is doubled on you, and there's a chance that it'll reignite, so you should never not be on fire with this build. And then Raving Retribution, which isn't nearly as good in the OP levels, but it's still pretty powerful. It will be setting enemies on fire, getting you elemental elation stacks, and sometimes it can just straight up kill the enemies. So definitely spec into that. And then coming over here, just get blood-filled guns. These two don't really matter for the build, but blood-filled guns will be more helpful. Then max out Taste of Blood, 100%. This will give you a bunch of damage reduction in Buzz Axe Rampage, and you get a ton of Bloodlust stacks. Then on to Fuel the Blood, which most people know is pretty much Krieg's one of his best melee skills. So what this will do is when you get a melee kill, it increases your grenade damage by a significant amount. In this case, it would be 200%. If you didn't have a class mod that boosted it, it would be 100%. But essentially, you get a melee kill, and then your grenade damage is doubled or more than doubled, and that applies to Buzz Axe Bombardier, where you attach dynamite to your Buzz Axe. So, as soon as you get a melee kill, if you just start throwing, enemies will just die in 1 or 2 Buzz Axes. And mixed with Elemental Elation, increasing your fire rate with your Buzz Axe by 60%, or if you have a class mod on, 110%, plus the bonus 50 whatever percent fire rate from the Sheriff's Badge, it becomes really, really ridiculous. This is a full-on, just essentially like a spear throwing build. And then for your last 5 skill points, this is up to you. So you could go into Boiling Blood, so you can hold more Bloodlust stacks. If you wanted, you could do Blood Trance. I wouldn't recommend it in the OP levels, but it is fun to use. It's honestly nice to use. I just wouldn't recommend it. You could do Blood Overdrive, which will help if you do get down. You'll get bonus melee damage after shooting someone to get back up. But normally at this point, I honestly just take my points and put them into Burn Baby Burn. I know that that skill's not really that good, but it's fire build, so I'm gonna do what I want. And that's the whole build, okay? That's the whole build guide. But we're gonna get into some gameplay, and first I'm gonna go through with the Legendary Sickle, and you'll see how good that is. And then we'll go through with a Legendary Torch, and you'll see how fun that is. Again, it's not necessarily better, but it is very, very fun. So let's go to, I guess, Lynchwood, and see how this goes. All right, so starting us off in Lynchwood, pretty much the main goal is going to be just try to throw as many corrosive grenades as I can and shoot my infection as much as I can, or my Slaga, just to get some elemental elation stacks up and to get my bloodlust stacks up. So let's start on this. So I'm going to throw some pandemics. starts lagging, and then as soon as Release the Beast is available, I'm just going to go straight into it and start swinging and hit myself in the face a few times. And you can see, even without like the normal blood explosion, we kill everything super quick. There's constantly fire everywhere, everything's dying. Occasionally Raving Retribution will actually get a kill entirely on its own, and you can see our buzz axe speed is getting really pretty crazy, and it'll get even crazier once we set more people on fire. So let me try to just proc Fire Fiend. And for some reason, Elemental Elation doesn't show down on the hotbar, but it is still active, as you'll see from my buzz axe throwing speed. I should also mention, because I don't think I said it, but when you melee kill an enemy with Fuel the Blood, that bonus damage actually goes towards Silence the Voices, so you don't want to keep swinging after you get a melee kill. Anyway. Now, a lot of why I made this build in the first place was because I noticed that every single time I or anyone else makes a melee build, it pretty much always devolves down into just blood sploding everything, which is fun, and it's very chaotic and very fun. And it's really what Krieg is all about, which is just being chaotic. But sometimes it's kind of not very engaging gameplay, because you literally will kill one enemy and everything just dies. And I wanted something that's more engaging, but just as powerful. And I don't know if it's just me, but in my experience, I actually get down less with this build, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I constantly have Numb Nerves active, giving me damage reduction thanks to constantly being on fire. But as you can see, I'm literally struggling to find enemies because I'm just shredding through Lynchwood so quickly, and no blood explosion. And again, this build is primarily good for flesh-based targets, obviously, because it's fire. I mean, that's kind of obvious. But that doesn't mean that it's bad against other people, but it's definitely best for flesh. There's that buzz axe speed coming in. Here, watch. We'll kill this guy, get our Fuel the Blood, and then just start chucking at the scavenger. And have everyone run away. So this is a case where I will pull out my shotgun and just spray him down. Sometimes it can be very hard to see through everything. Thanks to us not having Pain's power, if you do manage to hit a headshot, the enemies will die very quick. Alright, and that's most of Lynchwood cleared, so now we're going to redo that, but with a Torch class mod on, and you'll see that, again, it's not more powerful of a build, but you will see how ridiculous and how fun it becomes. So let me reset the map here. Alright, so swapping over to the Legendary Torch class mod, we are going to be getting, the main bonuses that we'll be getting from this are obviously the fire damage on the Torch class mod, and then if you're spec'd to Embrace the Pain, you'll get a big bonus on that, which is super nice. But you'll also get Burn Baby Burn for more fire damage, Fuel the Fire for more chance to set yourself on fire, and to set the enemies on fire. It's really, these two are kind of whatever. Flame Flare, which will be really nice because we'll never run out of fire. And the big thing here, Elemental Elation, our buzz axes will, you've probably never seen buzz axes be thrown this fast. If you wanted here, fire-wise, you could double down and do a Bone of the Ancients. I wouldn't recommend it, and it would kind of take away from the fun aspect of using the Legendary Torch, because it is worse than the Sickle, but it is fun for throwing, so I wouldn't recommend a Bone, but you could. So the reason that it's so much worse than the Sickle is because you're not getting Silence the Voices, but also you're not getting Fuel the Blood, which is where a ton of your damage comes from. You'll still be getting double damage after a melee kill, but you won't be getting 200%. So that's why Legendary Sickle is so much better, but I will try to show off just how fun the Legendary Torch can be. So like normal, I want to apply some damage over times to as many people as I can. Get my elemental elation stacks up as high as I can. And you can see the fire rate is already becoming huge. And I should be maxed out here. Alright, so get a melee, and then you can see I'm throwing these out faster than some weapons shoot, literally. Oh, here we go, here we go. You saw that? You'll hit a point where you just throw ridiculously fast. And then you might get down, but luckily our fire rate is insanely boosted right now. But you can see the throwing axes do a lot less damage than they would if we had the sickle on with Feel the Blood maxed out. So you won't be getting one axe kills nearly as often. But you will be able to throw 100 axes at the enemy in the span of like 12 seconds, so. Sometimes, like right there, Raving Retribution actually steals your melee kill, so you don't get Feel the Blood at all. Now, it is important when you're playing melee Krieg to still be aiming for the head somewhat, because crits do still do a ton of bonus damage. Not if you're using Pain as power, though. I do appreciate everyone that watched and everyone that commented on that Krieg build guide I did. And the people that mentioned that Pain as power is so bad, I've literally always just used it my whole life, so I just assumed it was good without ever having actually tested it. And I guess I could also mention that I got another thing wrong in that guide that I didn't know about, but is a very popular misconception, so I don't blame myself for this one. But roid shields actually don't increase the amount of damage you do to yourself. However, in OP10, you have such low health compared to how much damage you do, that if you run a roid shield, you will still probably 2 or 3 shot yourself just because your health is so low. So I'd still only use a Rough Rider, but it doesn't actually increase the damage you deal. So. But yeah, you can see with this version of the build, my Raving Retribution is actually getting quite a few more kills than it was with the Sickle on. And we can throw like crazy. It obviously has some of its downsides, but it has its upsides too. You can see Raving Retribution literally just one-shot him right there. I think I've only ever seen people truly do a Mania Hellborn build like probably once on YouTube. It was a long time ago. I don't remember who made it. I don't remember what the video was. I think the level cap was like level 60. Everyone goes down into the Hellborn tree, but it's very rare that people get Raving Retribution along with Blood Explosion or Release the Beast. So I wanted to do something that was a bit unique, but still not crazy, you know? And here's that throwing speed coming in again. So you do less damage a throw, but you throw a lot quicker. And when you're down, you shoot way faster too. So you can get yourself right back up. Alright, I think we'll take out these enemies and then we'll finish up this video here. You can see even scavengers are no match for this. But yeah, so I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you all for all the support you've given me on all my videos recently, and especially on my Krieg build, because I really didn't expect it to do that well, but it did do very well, and I really, really appreciate that. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. It's just a fun little build, because I wanted to do something, you know, a little bit unique, and it really is what I've been using recently. I found it to be a ton of fun. I found it to be very useful. I actually expected it to be a lot worse when I first tried it. I just assumed that, you know, Hellborn Mania wouldn't really go super well together in the OP levels, but I've been sorely mistaken, because it is very powerful. I know that I'm not showing that off very well, considering I'm getting down like crazy right now. But it is a very, very powerful build. Thanks to how many skill points have been added, thanks to the Commander Lilith DLC, it's kind of hard to find diversity in people's actual skills due to the fact that you just have so many of them. But yeah, so hopefully this is unique to you guys. Hopefully you haven't seen anyone do this before. And with that, I once again just ask that you subscribe, leave a like, comment your favorite builds down below, comment things that you would do different, tell me why I'm wrong again about a few of these, and have a great night, have a great evening, have a great morning, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace out.